have live coaching demonstrations. So if you would like to partake in more of these sessions, please, we do have multiple sessions running each month. So please join us in those, and you can check it out on our website. Cool. So let's get right into what we're here today about. So what I'd like to start with is, we get better business outcomes when the whole person is engaged. When we're at work, when we're at home, there's more of it's been integrated than ever, right? So new skills are needed to support the whole person. And it's not just how they perform their function. So learning and development leaders must create a nurturing ecosystem to manage their well-being. Now, the compassionate approach embodies the coaching competency of trust and intimacy to support people engagement while drawing out their potential to perform really well. So today we're going to learn how to effectively use empathy, curiosity, and listening to lead the whole person. Now, Lynley is an intuitive coach committed to empowering leaders to thrive. As a professional coach since 2006, she is also an advanced graduate of Coach Masters Academy, now a student support and a new addition to the CMA faculty. And we do value having her a part of our faculty. With 20 years experience in personal development and training, Lynley brings her professional coaching expertise and experience to help leaders thrive and accomplish their full potential. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Lynley Allan.
Well, thank you so much for the very kind introductions from the faculty and from you, Evan. It is a pleasure and an honour to be here today and to share some wisdom that I've gained over the years. And, part of my journey is that compassion just didn't come naturally to me. And so over the years, I've had to learn through various environments, had to learn how to operate out of empathy and compassion. So a little bit about me, I'm more of an leaning towards the A-type personality in my core nature, and, quite visionary driven and really just want to get stuff done. And so over the years, working with teams and especially volunteer teams, I've had to learn these skills that I'm about to talk about today. So if any of you are sitting where I was before, sort of having that sort of, the D on the DISC test, D leaning towards the I, we do need to learn these things. But I think that in our modern day culture, it is very important that we learn how to lead the whole person and not just create L&D initiatives for our cognitive or our task orientated or our to-dos, but we actually create this culture or this ecosystem within our workplaces that support the emotive side, the emotional side of our human beingness, And so today I'm just going to jump straight in and begin the seminar and webinar. And I just want to really encourage you to just glean what you can from today. And I just trust that you'll be able to come away with some ways that you can start integrating more compassion and empathy into where you work as well. So here I'm just, so excited to bring this because it is such a personal journey for me to design places that are really people orientated. And so we really wanted to start by setting out some learning outcomes today for our webinar. I want to discuss what does a compassionate workplace culture look like and why is it important? I also want to have a look at how to effectively navigate personal and professional needs of others without actually collapsing yourself or becoming overwhelmed in the process. And I want to look at how to identify the skills, what skills are needed for leading the whole person with compassion. What do we need to gain or add to our skill set, our tool belt, in order to effectively lead lead people. And hopefully at the end, we'll be able to do some Q&A as well. So as Evan has said, you know, in the introduction, the modern workplace has moved from being in one central location where everybody left their homes and they went to that place to work. It is now comprised of multiple locations, and especially with this COVID and lockdown environment, the world has really had to learn how to work from home and work from home in crisis as well. So it's not just, you know, people are relaxed at the moment. We are stressed because of what we are walking through as a nation. People problems seem to now cross the lines between professional and personal on a daily basis. People come, you know, to work, to the Zoom or whatever online meeting there might be, with all of the day's stresses with kids and dogs and cats and everything. And these stresses are really changing how we lead people, how we show up, and what kind of environment are going to support this new the new level of needs that people are requiring. And so the other things is that, you know, workplaces become like a close neighborhood for people. The workplaces become almost a second family for people as well. You know, with longer work hours, you know, sometimes some people spend more time with their work colleagues than they do their family. And so with these new challenges, what we need to realize is that the workplace is becoming a place or a source of support, affirmation, and really just that place of connection. So if we don't have these elements in our work environment and our work ecosystem, we don't have them, then people aren't actually getting what they need in order to have a platform in which to work effectively and at the performance levels that we need them to. You know, studies have shown that organizations gain better outcomes when they create an environment that does support the whole person, not just focusing on performance and outcomes. And research and findings have also recognized that compassion is an essential aspect of a productive work environment. So showing passion to colleagues and your superiors or your subordinates is really vital for overall job satisfaction and motivation. The mindset and relational skills that are now required to maintain employee, staff, people engagement in this new area have to include supporting the emotional and the mental stability, while also weighing up and managing and maintaining work performance. So let's just have a look at the compassionate culture. Inbuilt in all of us are some core needs, some human core needs. Some of these needs are, we all want to be seen. We want to be seen for who we are. We want to be known for who we truly are, and we want to be appreciated. We want to feel love, and we want to feel connection with others. We want to belong to somebody, to something greater than ourselves, and make a positive contribution to whatever we are involved in. So people are human beings, but often we relate to people as human doings, and we forget that they're human beings. And the human doing is about our cognitive, the cognitive side of who we are. So 2 ways to engage with people are the human doing level, which is about what they do, their actions, their performance, the engagement that actually is results focused. In practical terms, a human doing conversation might sound like this. You are the lead person on this project. So what's your plan to achieve the best results? That is a question that is a results focused human doing type question that you might ask somebody, and it's very legitimate, and then we actually need to be asking these questions. However, there is also another way that we can ask questions that engages another part of the person. The second level of relating to them is to relate them as a human being. And a human being is about the who are you? Who are you being right now? Who do you want to be? And what do you want? So connecting with a person's current state in their day, their emotional needs, and their desires and wants. So in practical terms, in a human being conversation, it could sound like this. You are the lead on this project. How do you feel about the challenges ahead around leading this project? And what kind of support do you need as you step up into this new responsibility? How can I help you be at your best? So I don't know about you, but those two questions and the two different questions that I formatted, one is a doing question, one is addressing the who, the person, the being, they feel different to me. And so leading the whole person means we relate to them in both ways. We can't just be all about performance and about results and neglect the emotional side of a person. We can't be all about the emotional side of a person and let the performance drop, because that will actually damage our business. So connecting with people as human doings that provide a function within our organizations is vitally important, but we can also connect with them as human beings that have an emotive and relational need that when met, their performance increases. So I'm just going to engage you a little bit. I just want you to turn on your cameras and, I want you to have a look at a question for me and write it in the chat. I just want you to imagine or just remember a time in the past when maybe you were having a bit of a rough time. Maybe there was things going on in your life that were causing you a little bit of stress and you noticed that you were really distracted. And somebody in your workplace came along and, asked you how you were doing or related to you in the human being zone, and they were connecting with you not just about your to-do list or your jobs or responsibilities, but they were connecting with you as a person. I just want you to invite you to write in the chat there just a couple of things that come to mind. How did you feel? How did that make you feel when somebody engaged with you about how you were doing? They felt supported. I can see here people felt seen, appreciated, genuinely seen and heard. Love that. I felt noticed. That's beautiful. Yeah. And all these point to, our need for connection. Felt supported, calm and more energy to move on. Yeah. And so sometimes, we need just to share and be heard. And, the saying, a burden shared is a burden halved. And the way that if we feel appreciated or we feel supported, or just that somebody around us knows that there is other things, external things going on in our life, that can really help. Felt cared for, noticed. Thank you so much. That's really great. That's really good. So when we have a look at, just gonna click on, there are some necessary ingredients to creating a compassionate workplace ecosystem or culture. And the first thing I want to have a look at is cultivating love and connection. We are not talking about a romantic or passionate kind of love that you have with your partner. And that's not the sort of love I'm talking about here. Cultivating love and connection is about a different kind of love. Basard and O'Neill wrote an article in the Harvard Business Review called "Employees Who Feel Love Perform Better." And the theory is that the more companionate love co-workers feel at work, the more engaged they are. Companionate love is based on warmth, care, connection rather than passion. So we're not advocating romances in the workplace. This is a companionate love that just is about how you express warmth, care, and connection with one another. And so these authors, they suggest that the organizations that have an opportunity to broaden their definition of workplace culture, so instead of focusing just on the cognitive culture with values such as, you know, teamwork and results orientation or innovation, that they might think about how to cultivate and enrich an emotional culture as well. So having a cognitive culture is what we often see in business now. But how can we develop an emotional culture within the organization that balances and brings a cohesion to the ecosystem of the workplace? We need to consider how our company policies and practices can foster caring and compassion and tenderness among workers. And so the next thing I want to just talk about here is cultivating trust and safety. So the next ingredients to developing a compassionate workplace and ecosystem is really addressing the trust factor and the safety factor. In an environment of trust and safety, people are allowed to share their personal concerns or even the mistakes that they might have made at work. In a trust and safety environment, there's a value of mutual respect and trust between people. You know, there's a real honouring amongst colleagues. So I'm just going to show a video now by Sinek. Let's listen to this. He really explains trust and safety in a really great way that I think adds to this conversation.
Sorry, Lynley, I'm just seeing if it's work. I don't think it's working. We can't really see it on the screen.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. That
try
could
and
be
share
because
that
I'm
again.
not sharing my screen. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Just might want to put the sound if. Sorry, Lynley, I don't think we can hear the sound. If you want to reshare the screen and then tick at the bottom left-hand corner, there's a share sound as well.
Okay. Sorry, everybody, about this.
Oh,
Let's try again. It's worth giving it another go. Sorry, mate, I can't get it down. Maybe we'll just move on. No. Can you hear? No sound. I'm really sorry about this, everybody.
No. I can share let me share it there, if that's all right with you, Lynley. I'll share the video. I've got it up.
That would be awesome. I appreciate your support.
Awesome. Let's do it.
building psychological safety on a team, what that means is leaders create an environment in which the people working in the company, the people on a team, feel safe enough to raise their hand and say, I made a mistake, or I don't understand what I'm doing, or I'm struggling at home and it's affecting my work, or I'm scared, or I need help, without any fear of humiliation or retribution. In fact, they can say these things with absolute confidence that their boss or their coworkers will rush to support them. That's what a trusting team feels like. We've all been on one before. We also all know what it feels like not to be on a trusting team, where we would never admit mistakes for fear of humiliation or getting in trouble. We're never going to say, I don't understand something. We're not going to admit we're scared. We're not going to tell anybody that we're struggling at home, it's affecting our work. And we're definitely not asking for help, because these things make us vulnerable or weak and might put us on a short list for the next round of layoffs. Or worse, my boss, it might hurt my career chances. I won't get promoted because I've said I don't understand something. So we keep quiet. It might work in the short term, but over the course of time, a company where no employee ever admits mistakes, or worse, they hide their mistakes, eventually those cracks grow and grow and grow and cause great damage to the organization and its ability to succeed. So this is a leader's responsibility. It's a leader's responsibility to create an environment in which people feel psychologically safe, and if somebody makes a mistake, we can help them fix it. As Allan Mulally used to talk about when he took over Ford Motor Company, you are not the problem, you have a problem. And if you can tell me the problem, we can all rally together to help you fix it.
Thank you, Evan, and I hope you appreciated just what Simon was saying there. And to summarize his points, creating a trust and a culture of trust and safety, or psychological safety, is where people feel they are able to admit they're not doing well without any fear of judgment of others or negative repercussions. And so it's also where leaders and colleagues, rally around and people to support them, that their automatic go-to is not distance and judgment, but going to and surrounding with support. And you may have noticed, I'm not sure, at the end there was a tagline that he put up. He said, be there for each other. An ecosystem of compassion and care is really one where no matter what level of the organization you're at, you are all there for one another. So in the absence of trust and safety, there creeps in some fear and some shame around maybe mistakes, or, I'm not coping, or, what's wrong with me. And so shame and fear can grow in an environment where there isn't trust and safety. People who fear negative responses or repercussions to sharing what's going on with them tend to withdraw. And so what happens when people withdraw is that it leads to being detached or detachment. And so detachment, that's like a spiral effect. Detachment leads to workplace loneliness. And lots of studies have been done about workplace loneliness, which then lowers the employees and performance and innovation, and their productivity goes down. And so detachment from loneliness has an impact on the person's confidence. And so when someone's confidence is not, their performance is lessens. And so their effectiveness is really, damaged in some way. So because of the lack of connection to a team, workplace loneliness is more likely to result in people taking time off sick, and maybe worst case scenario, seeking out new employment because they just don't feel the support. And so that emotional detachment is something that we need to be really watching out for. And the antidote to that is by creating an environment or an ecosystem of trust and safety, where that is where people are feeling surrounded and supported and not feeling detached. So I just want to share a little bit about my personal journey, because, as I said in the beginning, compassion is something that I've learned. And so if I've learned it, I know you can too, or you can even increase your awareness around it. I'm a person who wants to succeed. I'm a person who when I watch the Olympic Games. I cry at the medal ceremony, and I'm the one who, is getting the tissues out when I see our rowers, going over the finish line, or the runners finishing their race. And my husband looked at me one day and said to me, "Why is it that you cry, watching the Olympics?" And on reflection, I realized that I deeply want people to succeed. I have this deep desire for people to see the reward of their hard work and to achieve what they dream that they can achieve. And so I get deeply moved by that. But also taking into what I said at the beginning in my introduction is that I do tend towards the A-type personality, which is, really can be quite driven and mistaken for not caring about people. And so when back in 1998, we made a massive move from New Zealand and went to Canada, and we went there for 6 months and stayed for 9 years. And part of that journey was that we both of us had a shared role where we were the directors of a personal development program. And so that was a 6-month community live-in situation where and I did that job for 5 years. And it was just amazing in the area of people development. But I had to learn this compassion because I was living and breathing and eating with people that I didn't necessarily like. And so I had to learn ways to really begin to dig deep and find that place within myself that I could care for people, no matter what type of personality they were and, what kind of background they came from. And this is just, my journey that I went on. What happened was, though, is that in my learning to become a compassionate person and caring person and loving people where they're at, is that I actually became the one who was known to be the fix-it person. And so in my desire to be compassionate, it ended up being in an unhealthy place of counseling people for hours and hours. And so after 5 years, I went from looking like this to looking like this. And I actually hit compassion fatigue and ended up resigning from my role. I had a time of recovery, and in that recovery time, I started asking the question, there must be a way to love people, to be compassionate, to care and genuinely help people to be the best that they can and not burn out on over caring. And so that crisis drove me to seek out the answer. And that answer led me to finding the coaching profession. And with this discovery that this profession even existed was quite a highlight for me. But what happened was that I so loved the philosophy of it that I trained back in 2005, 2006 and became a professional certified coach back then. And I've been using these techniques ever since. So the training took me on a massive journey. And I had a transformative shift in my mindset. And that shift has really been a permanent shift from the way I saw people back then when I was living in being in that role and really thinking the compassion was one thing and dying in the middle of it. And then realizing that I could see things in a different way and view people in a different way. So what was this shift? This transformative shift went something like this. I believed that people were broken, or people are broken. The way I used to think, if I was really honest, was people who had issues or problems were essentially broken. And being compassionate with that mindset, being compassionate meant that I had to fix people and to find solutions to their problems. So this is a conventional psychological focus, which is really focusing on the problem, fixing the problem in order to help people. But that's not who I was in my essence. And so I had an aha moment when I went through the training to be a professional coach. And I found that this was my new mindset. I had an aha moment where I realized that people are inherently powerful, resourceful, and whole. And if I see people through that lens of powerful, resourceful, and whole, then I can see that they also have all the resources within them or at their disposal that they need and able to discover the solutions or the insight that they need that moves them from where they are to where they want to be. And so this fundamental shift of the coach approach to compassion is what I call it, is to really help me create a safe place within myself, but also it helps create a safe place for the person you're talking to or relating with to discover insight and learning through exploration and reflective learning. And so before I was in this unhealthy place, and then I had this massive shift into this more empowered space. And I just want to encourage you that when we see people, our colleagues, our superiors, our subordinates, as powerful people, able to find their own solutions, that opens the door for us to have really powerful conversations that support them in a compassionate way. But that doesn't mean that you take on the full responsibility for the person's solution or the full responsibility for their emotional well-being. You can love them and support them, but not take on the burden like I did. So I believe organizations can create caring and compassionate cultures that help everybody to thrive, including leaders. And we can utilize the coaching competencies of trust, empathy, curiosity, and listening to effectively lead people without draining our own reserves. So what skills do we need to learn to lead the whole person? We need empathy and curiosity and listening. And I'm just going to walk you through these. So skill number one, understanding empathy. Empathy in relation to compassion. Compassion is not pity, it's not self-pity. It's not poor you and it's not poor me. Compassion is not taking on emotional burdens for other people. Compassion is defined as a feeling that arises when you're confronted with another person's suffering. It is empathy in action. And what's really interesting about compassion is that it has a biological basis. Some people see it as a touchy-feely thing, but scientists have started to map the biological basis of compassion. And research has shown that when we feel compassion rising within us, our heart rate slows down and we actually secrete a bonding hormone called oxytocin. And the regions of the brain linked to empathy, caregiving, and feeling of pleasure, they light up, okay? And which means that it actually activates that driver to want to act in order to care for other people. So there's a biological, physiological thing that happens when we're operating in compassion. So if you think about that in a team, if everybody is relating in a compassionate way, there's going to be a deep level of connection happening, which is very cool. This is what we want. So let's look at empathy. Renowned psychologists Goleman and Ekman have identified 3 components of empathy that are important to look at. So I'm just going to go through those. The first one is cognitive. So cognitive type of empathy is knowing how the other person feels and what they might be thinking. For example, if you imagine yourself, if you imagine your friend has just lost their job, you will just instinctively know that she's likely to be feeling pretty sad or anxious because she relies on that income, to pay her rent, right? That's a cognitive empathy. And there's also an emotional empathy, which is when you feel when you physically feel along with the other person. So for example, if you saw somebody slam their hand in a door, you would instinctively cringe because you know that that would be painful. So that is an emotional empathy. There's also a third one, which is a compassionate empathy. And with this kind of empathy, we understand a person's predicament and feel them. And when we feel and sense that, we're also moved to help them. So by learning how to empathize with your co-workers and those around you using these 3 types of empathy, you can build stronger relationships and connection. Okay, so let's just looking at curiosity. To connect with people in an authentic way, we need to silence the inner voice of assumption or deduction and judgment, and adopt a curious approach to our conversations. So we can often be unaware of the lenses that we look through and we see people through. Any lens or bias that we see people through are assumptions or judgments. And they're based on our past experience. They're not based on what the current reality is. They're often just preconceived ideas that we just layer over this current situation. The skill of being curious, on the other hand, is having the mindset that is open to learn new things about people and through inquiry. So curiosity is the doorway for observing how things actually are, not what you assume they are. So practically, let's look practically. What might this sound like or look like? I'm just going to put up a couple of examples here for us to have a look at. An example of what a conversation of deduction may sound like could be this. I have been reviewing your quarterly sales figures and I see your numbers are down and you have not met your sales target. You must not be making enough sales calls. What do you need to do to get your numbers up? Okay, so there's a deduction in there. They're assuming or deducing that the sales targets are down, which must mean they're not making enough sales calls. When we adapt a curiosity mindset, it might sound like this. I've been reviewing your quarterly sales figures and I see your numbers are down and you've not met your sales target. I just want to check in with you and ask if you're okay. Is there something going on that may be affecting your figures? And of course, because you've opened the space through curiosity and inquiry, you get an answer that could sound like this. Yes, I know my work hasn't been up to my usual standards, but I'm having a very hard time concentrating. The truth is, well, you've heard about that gang activity in downtown. I hate to say this, but I think my child might be involved and I can't decide what to do. And that there, right there, is the launching pad for some compassion and some support and some care. But you wouldn't know it if you approached it without curiosity and you approached it through assumption. Finding out what's really going on behind what's going on. Let's look at curiosity and empathy working together. So we've talked about empathy, we've talked about curiosity. Let's look at what it looks like together. I've been reviewing your quarterly sales figures and this poor guy has got terrible performance. Anyway, I've been reviewing your quarterly sales figures and I see that your performance is down and I'm concerned about you, empathy. What's going on? Curiosity. And are you okay? Empathy. Once again, approaching an issue with curiosity opens the heart and mind of the person that you're talking to. You hold space for them to be able to open up and share. And this brings a deeper sense of connection between co-workers. So the next skill is active listening. And a lot of people, a lot of time just want to be heard. I've done a lot of work in my life with people, and a core need of human beings is to just be heard. And we can support people through active listening. We can hear them in ways that we wouldn't normally. So let's just have a look at what that is. This happens in an environment of empathy without judgment. So active listening, or listening at a deeper level, happens on an environment of empathy that doesn't have judgment, and an environment of curiosity, seeking to understand, to learn. Active listening is to hear what is not being verbalized through the use of intuition and a lot of observation. So communication is more than words. You know that you can, I talk quite a lot with my hands, as you see, that there's expression that happens with hands and eyes and facial expressions, body language. You can also pick up a lot through your physical senses of, you know, you are a censored being, you're created with senses, and it's not, we don't just communicate with words. And an example of this is, you know, throughout my life, I've actually had a number of pets. I've had birds, I've had fish, I've had cats, I haven't had dogs, but I've got friends that have dogs. And all my pets, I was able to learn to understand what they were saying, and, you know, whether they were hungry or angry or scared or needed affection and love or just needed to be fed. You know, I could understand their what they were communicated, and none of them spoke English. So we have the ability to listen beyond words. Hearing is different from listening. There's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing someone has more to do with the physiological act of hearing sounds and connecting with the person who's talking to you. Listening, on the other hand, means you pay attention to the sound to hear something with a thoughtful attention and to give consideration. So hearing, you can hear a sound and just hear it, but it's sometimes we you know, have you ever had a situation where you've been talking to somebody but you've blacked out, and you know, they've been talking but your mind has gone somewhere else. You've been able to hear them, but you're not really listening to them. So active listening is thoughtful attention and consideration for what is being said by the person. Listening with an open heart of curiosity for what else is going on that's more than what they're verbalizing. It's listening beyond the words and observing how they're communicating. It is listening with all your senses to what is not actually being communicated, and listening for signs of the person's needs or desires or emotions. And also we can be listening. Active listening is listening to those assumptions or underlying beliefs that may come up in their communication. So when you listen on this level, your conversation shifts to a deeper level, and of course that results in, you know, the person feeling supported and heard. So leading with the whole person starts with leading ourselves. We can't go through a webinar like this and talk about this subject and keep it as an external thing all the time. In order for us to successfully lead the whole person of others in our organizations, we also need to create a compassionate culture for ourselves and for them, for us personally and corporately for other people. So we need to develop these skills for ourselves and apply them to our own lives and do our own reflective work that will then make it even more easy for us, or give us a stronger ability to actually create that environment for others. So we do this by committing to going on a personal journey to transform the ways that we relate to people. Like I've shared with about my own life, I definitely needed to go on that journey, and I found a really empowering way through professional coaching to be able to connect with people and look after their well-being and support them, and and still thrive myself. And I think that as we go through our own personal journey and learning these skills for ourselves, we actually create an atmosphere around us. So when we actually walk into a room, we carry that compassion with us, we carry that level of support with us that then everybody else is affected. So just in wrap up here, I just want to bring this amazing time to a close. You know, the compassionate approach to people engagement in the modern workplace really results in happier people, higher engagement, higher retention, increased creativity, successful teams, increased performance, and really your organizations become a great place and a desirable place for people to work, which is, you know, all credit to those that actually are able to create that environment. So the bottom line is people will love coming to work. They'll enjoy the supportive relationships and of the work family. And, you know, that's what work can become, is a work family. I want to leave you with this final thought from a Persian prophet called Rumi. Listen with ears of tolerance, see through the eyes of compassion, and speak through the language of love. Thank you for your time.
All right, let's all give our presenter Lynley a big round of applause. Well done, Lynley, and I do invite you to come up to everyone to come on the screen, and love to see all your faces. And what a fantastic presentation that we saw. And what I'd like to do now is open up the Q&A. And I'm wondering if any of you have any questions, any comments, any observations that you'd like to add in. I might start. You know, Lynley, I was really touched by your story and your transformation, and just wondering, during that transformation, is there any practical tips that allowed you to embody being empathetic, being compassionate, this active listening? Is there any things that we can do to help us, I guess, prime ourselves for that?
One of the things that I've learned is to get myself out of the way and approach conversations with a blank slate. You know, one of the things that in my old mindset I used to kind of almost pride myself on, I guess, which was really arrogant and wrong, but that I could read people really well, or I could, you know, discern what was really a core issue in their lives. And time again, I was completely wrong, and I was proved to be wrong. And I needed to dethrone myself, come to life and conversations with people around me with a blank, open space that we can write, you know, together what our conversation will be. Yeah, so self-management, self-awareness, get really self-aware. Become self-aware is a big key, Evan.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, thanks for sharing that, Lynley. Again, your story was really touching. So thanks for sharing it. Love to throw it to other people, other maybe faculty or anyone here who has a question, or love to hear from you guys.
I have a question.
Ivy. Yeah.
For Lynley. Thank you so much for that wonderful sharing and everything that you imparted with us tonight. And one of the things that really struck me, well, not struck me, but it stood out for me, was one of your slides. And when you mentioned about, you know, being able to create a compassionate environment, you also have to have some for yourself. And I remember that photo that you put on you know, 5 years ago and 5 years after. So like, that's a stark contrast. So I was wondering if you could help share some of from the moment you were aware of that, how did you start, help yourself to build on it again, to heal in that process and be able to build it yourself back, you know, to have that topped up again?
Oh, got a great question, Ivy. Thank you. How did I get topped up again? How did I recover from that? You know, I really needed to learn how to love myself. And, you know, that it was pretty hard. And to be honest, you know, I'm still learning to do that. But I really fundamentally believe that if we can learn to love ourselves, then we have a greater capacity to love other people. There's a Bible scripture that says, love God, love others as you love yourself. And there's a key in that if you're not able to take care of yourself, take time for yourself, feed yourself, take care of this and this and this, then you're not actually able to love others and look after others or care for others to the same degree. And so, really put your gas mask or your oxygen mask on first, and keep yourself full of goodness and gratitude and light, and look after your own self first, and then you have the ability to give away. You can't give something away that you haven't got yourself. And so I went through I actually went to the CEO or the guy and said, look, I can't do this role anymore. You have to put me in a desk job with no people. And so I had to just, rebuild myself up again in the right way, dethrone and disassemble what was wrong there, and start building it from a different platform that of looking after myself first. Yeah.
Great question, Ivy, and well answered, Lynley, looking after ourselves first. I see, Grace, you've got your hand up. Would you like to share? There you go.
Yes, thank you, Ivan. Lynn, thank you so much. That was highly educative and refreshing. So I have a question for you. Is the art of saying no part of being compassionate at the workplace? How do you balance that, with your colleagues and your employees? You want to be compassionate and yet you have to say no. How has that been in your experience?
What a fantastic question, Grace. I do this workshop on personal boundaries, and one of my favorite lines in that workshop is, no is a complete sentence. As we respect ourselves and create those boundaries, other people will begin to be able to do that for themselves. And one of the things that we can do is we can be authentic in our no, but I strongly steer away from justifying my no. So there's a difference between no, that's not right for me, no, that's not going to work for me, thank you so much for the opportunity, but no, that won't work for me. That's the authentic no. It's still a no. The no that sounds like no, I can't because I've got this and this going on, and I don't have, and you're justifying your no. That's not going to feel great inside, because your no should be respected. And so when you begin to respect yourself in that space, then other people will learn to respect you as well. But we can say it in a compassionate way, in a caring way. I understand that you're really busy. I really understand that you're overwhelmed, but it's not right for me right now. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your question there, Grace. And I really enjoyed that answer, Lynley. What I've learned is that when you are saying no, when you can say it in a way that it's just not for me, it's not for me. It takes away from the other person. It takes away the judgment, that kind of thing. But it's just a me thing, it's just not for me. So I really like that. Great answer. Thanks, Lynley. Anyone else want to share, or a question or anything like that? Fiona.
Hi, Lynley. Over the years, I've worked with quite a number of different types of people, and with different assumptions of leadership. And what I've found is that some leaders, they have an assumption leadership is about I'm going to tell you what to do, and you're going to ask how high. You know, how high am I going to jump? Quoted, quote unquote, from someone I've worked with. So I guess my question is, how do you bring in that compassionate whole self in an environment where management is has a different approach to leadership?
Fiona, great question, because it's often the case when we're working with people that operate differently than us. The first thing is really holding ourselves in a space where we're not judging them for who they are. We may not agree with all that they're doing or how they're doing it, but there's an honor and a respect for the position that they hold. And I believe that as we model a different, or we hold compassion well, and we hold empathy well, and we relate to people around us and relate to that person, that boss that might be a bit more authoritarian in their leadership style, if we model that to them, you know, that is going to connect with that person in a way that they may never have experienced before. And, you know, you never know what kind of effect compassion and care and empathy actually has on a person. They might not show it on the outside, but I always think that love wins, right? So if we're able to hold ourselves in an authentic way, in a compassionate way, and the way we relate to them may just change the situation. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Lynley.
Thanks, Fiona.
Great question, Fiona, and very inspiring, Lynley. Definitely relate to that. Jacques, you got a question?
I wanted to add to that statement. I thought that was really well answered, Lynley, and I think Ben also made a great comment in the conversation in the chat about it not being your responsibility necessarily to solve other people's problems. But what I wanted to add to it as well is there's a Marshall Rosenberg, the creator of nonviolent communication, says whenever someone says something that when you hear it, it invokes what you would identify as negative emotions in yourself. What you're hearing is a tragic expression of an unmet need. The other person has a need that they're trying to communicate to you, and they're doing it in a way that is reducing the likelihood of that need being met. So the best thing that you can do in response is to try and help them see what their real need is by asking them some good questions and inquiring to help them explore their need. And once that need's been identified, to see whether it makes sense for both their need and your need to be met. And if it doesn't, then, well, Lynley's previous answer, just say no. And wonderful presentation, Lynley. I really enjoyed that, and super on topic, great stuff. And I really appreciated your sharing of your very deep story. Definitely relate. Found myself classified as a high D at one stage as well, and needed to reconnect with that compassion and that empathy. And it's taken a lot of work. I find the leadership log works really well, where you actually log your leadership interactions with people, and you watch your journey over time as you transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacques, and thank you for sharing how that connected with you in a personal way. And it's really brings joy to my heart if hearing that what has been presented today has connected with you and made a difference. So that's really great. Appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. I think that partly when people are coming to us and their energy is really negative and they're saying things, and there's that negativity in the air or pressure coming, and you feel it in your body. Our job is self-awareness, or knowing that when that's happening, to not react to it and see it and grab it and subconsciously go, okay, I can feel this, and I'm just going to put it a little bit over here and a little bit detached from me, so I can be free to respond in a way that's compassionate and empathetic and not just, you know, partner with that negativity and react to it. And then, because reaction begets reaction, which, you know, that's what happens, right? So yeah, just slight detachment from what's coming at you, so you're able to freely respond in a way that's more authentic to you.
Great, thanks for the question, Jack. And Lynley, so we have a question in our chat box here. So do you see a difference between empathy and compassion? And if yes, what is the impact for us as a leader in an organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think empathy really, like I went through in my presentation about the 3 types of compassion, the 3 types of empathy, and compassion is one of them. Compassion has an action to it. So empathy is, you know, being able to connect with the emotion and connect with the intuition around what the person is feeling, what the person is going through, empathizing with them to the point where you're able to, you know, connect at a deeper level with them. Compassion is empathy in action. So compassion creates the structures, or the do or the go, or the action to empathy. So a compassionate workplace is you're creating ways and mechanisms and initiatives to bring a platform or create the ecosystem. Really, it's understanding there's care needed. There's understanding that there is emotional and mental well-being and support that is needed in the workplace. Compassion drives you to actually create the space, you know, and empathy is being in the space. That's kind of how I see it.
Nice. Well answered there, Lynley. Great. So I'm just mindful of time, everyone. I'll open the floor maybe to one more person before we finish up. Anyone else? Nope. All right. So again, let's all give our wonderful presenter, Lynley, a big round of applause for an amazing, amazing webinar. Now, again, please keep an eye on email or the website for upcoming more learning webinars. We have live demonstrations that happen each month. So keep your eyes peeled. Please join us again. If not, we'll see you next time. So thanks everyone again, and bye for now.